Hello, Oracles, and welcome back to another wonderful live stream. Tonight, our first guest of 2023 for the first time on the channel is Herbert. We have not had him on here yet. You guys may know him as Tesla Herbert. He has his channel Brighter with Herbert. Welcome, Herbert. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate this. But it is appropriate that I am first because this is a milestone for
Yes.
2023. I've got my Tesla milestones. I actually did just change my branding. I'm no longer Tesla Herbert. I'm Herbert Ong. So you can find me on Twitter at Herbert Ong. So hopefully people don't get mixed up. But yeah,
Yes.
people have been asking why I did that. It has nothing to do with my love for Tesla, for my optimism about what this great investment is. It's just simply because I do a lot of these Twitter spaces, and when I'm doing them, people are like calling me Tesla instead of my name. So I figured I better just move my name forward.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, and that's good. And I've seen a few other people doing that too. And and you are who you are, and I think that's a great thing. And you don't need to be completely branded with just Tesla. You've got a lot more to offer than just that as well.
Yeah,
This
we'll
is
see.
fantastic. So give us a
Yeah.
little background on yourself, because I've been following you a little bit, but some of the subscribers may have not been.
Sure. I mean, like you, the way I asked you, what do you do, Tim? And you like said, well, there's three kinds of Tims.
Yeah.
There's many Herberts. But I think the way I describe myself is that I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a startup founder. This is my third startup that I'm currently running right now. It's called Juva, Juva. It's a digital health app. But I'm just so excited about new technologies. I'm a person who's looking for great products, great companies. That's what gets me excited. And so I was an all-in investor on Apple. That's the kind of person I am. I really fall in love with a product, with a company. I kind of get excited about how do they market it, what makes them, true value proposition. So the Steve Jobs moments when he came out with the iPhone presentation, but I was actually a heavy investor in Apple for decades, even before that period, and just continued to keep adding to it. Same thing happened with me with Tesla. So 2012, I saw Elon's presentation on the Model S, and I just, kind of knew that EVs is going to be the future. I got excited about the mission. And so I started investing, and then I went all in on Tesla in 2000 and just last year, 2020. So I've been kind of moving my money from Apple to Tesla.
Nice.
Did it last year. So I've got lots of investment in Tesla, way below what it is currently today. I'm certainly getting kind of like looks from my wife going, "Did you make the mistake of switching Tesla to Apple last year?" Well, until just 2 months ago, I did not, because 2 months ago, the recession and everything, every company, all the FANG stocks got hammered. Their stocks fell significantly, 50, 60, 70% down, except for two companies, which is Apple and Tesla. They held their own until 2 months ago, when all of a sudden everything went off the heels for Tesla.
Yeah.
And so now I don't look like I'm smart. Perhaps I should have kept my money on Apple. But just the reason I bring this up is that I am a forever bull, I call myself, right? I'm a long-term investor. So
Yeah.
I actually do not try to time the market. Even when COVID hit, my brother had his investment advisor give him a call and say, "Sell now, sell everything now." So my brother calls me and says, "My investment advisor called me that." I don't care. Like maybe I should care. So I'm learning. Should I care? Should I try to sell before everyone does? Should I try to buy before everyone, buy low, sell high? I don't do that. I
Yeah.
basically look at a company and I say, this is going to be revolutionary. There's a generational market change that's happening. This company is going to succeed regardless. It will fall because of recession. I will be fine with that because I don't need that cash. I don't need that money for the next 5 to 10 years. And so I don't try to time it. If it's low like it is now, I'll generate more cash and I'll buy more, but I'm not going to sell what I have so that I can buy when it's lower. I question myself. I'm not saying that that's the right advice. That's what I do, right? But I'm learning. So I have this show that many people know I'm doing, which is Cyber Bulls. And I have Christian, who is kind of more of a momentum investor. I'm learning from him. Xander, who's much more of a stock, the options, learning how to create those trades. So I've learned from everybody kind of how do you do this. But anyways, I'm a long-term investor. And so that's my background.
Excellent, excellent. So now, I mean, with Apple, were you invested before the dot-com bubble too? So you went through that and the housing recession?
Oh yeah. No, like I said, I mean, I'm a stock investor for a long period of time. I've
Yeah.
This is not my first rodeo.
Right.
I've
So,
seen
so I mean,
stocks fall. Yeah.
yeah. So you've been through those tough times where, it just shows that if you believe in the company and you have faith in the company going long term, it's worth holding through this. And again, none of this is financial advice, but you've been through it. So you've seen that with Apple. And so, seeing it with Tesla, we're assuming it's going to work out the same way.
Yeah, what I tell my family is that be glad that I'm not telling you that I've invested all of my money in this, this small little company because I believe it's going to like 100x and it's going to be amazing. I'm investing in a company that's one of the top, companies in the world, right?
Yeah.
And but that has an unlimited future, right? Because there's a
Right.
market change that's happening. And so these companies, Apple and Tesla, are good examples of them. They're beta stocks, right? So, but they're so strong in their balance sheets that they are typically the last to fall, but they're going to be the first to rise.
Right.
So even during the last recessions, and I've been around many recessions, invested in them, you will see these companies, your stocks fall and you see your valuation go down and you're going, oh my God, what happened to my, my money? But it's luckily these are the last to fall. And
Yeah.
then, but they're going to be the first to rise. And so I truly believe that that's what's going to happen. Now we can talk a little bit more about what's happening with Tesla because something funky is happening this year, of course, more than
Right.
just the market gyrations at this point.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and my dad is the one who taught me a lot about the investing as well. And he said that's what you see. You'll see the giants are the last ones to fall, but the first ones to come back. And we just saw
Yeah.
recently that Apple started hitting 52-week lows. So for people who are asking where's the bottom, that's usually one of the signals is when you start seeing the big dogs start hitting those 52-week lows, because that means that that's the final fall coming down. Now we'll go to Tesla and say, so obviously Tesla was holding strong until 2 months ago. So what happened 2 months ago? I mean, we obviously saw lots of stuff happen 2 months ago. We saw Twitter coming up, Elon buying Twitter, that drama and just ensuing further there, demand questions in China. So what do you think is causing this
Yeah.
the most? Do you think
So
it's macro? Do you think it's Twitter? Do you think it's
yeah.
demand?
I'm a bit of contrarian, so I did this big cyber recap episode on December 28th. We had 17 special guests that appeared on the YouTube live stream,
Yes, I saw
and
that. That was awesome.
yeah. And so I asked the question, several questions, but I asked the question, what do you think was the biggest reason for the stock to fall in 2022? And then what's your prediction for 2023? 15 of the 17 people, a few of them are economists kind of people. They said it was macro related. I was one of the only, few people, handful, that said, actually, I think it's Twitter. And the reason is that we had major inflation last year. We had COVID, lots of force majeure effects happened last year, right? There was a supply chain constraint, there was a chip shortage, just everything crazy happened. But again, like what I was saying earlier, until September, Apple and Tesla were staying strong. They fell, but not that much compared to every other company. Until when? Elon bought Twitter.
Yeah.
So for me, that started the crash. Now, people then say, well, it's also because of China softening in demand or perceived softening in demand. Now, okay, so do you think that, how much do you attribute to that? So there certainly was that, right? There's investors who were starting to get skittish. But I think it was pretty obvious that the reason why there's potentially a softening in demand China is not because of a fundamental change in the theory, in the thesis, but rather it's because of COVID scenario. It's the incentive that's going away in January. So yes, of course it impacted it, but I still think that, what kick-started everything that, I think you said earlier, like it's a confluence of 3-4 things that finally happened and Tesla then just crashed. So macro definitely impacted it, but the Twitter debacle was the thing that kicked it off, right?
Yeah. And as Nicole says here, his personal brand is affecting stock prices. And I'm so torn on that myself. And I can see it. Obviously, Elon is the face of Tesla. What Elon does, he's also the reason why the stock took off like it did. But he's so, it's all tied to him and it's synonymous. And I think this year was a very much a perfect storm. Obviously we're heading into rising interest rate environment, potential recession. That's not good for high growth stocks as it is. But then you compile it with, Elon buying Twitter. That's the negative sentiment. Compile on top of that the concerns about China demand. And then because of the last 2 years, there was a lot of margin and fluff built up into the stock as it was. And so then all of a sudden you're getting these margin calls, you're getting sell orders getting triggered. And then that's of course going to draw in all of these shorts, and all the shorts are like, oh, this is the perfect prime time to drive the stock price down. It was a horrible catastrophe. And as we were talking before, it was like the perfect storm on the other end. The last 2 years were the perfect storm to have the stock skyrocket. Now it's the opposite. And you're right. And I think you're right. And I don't have the same view as you, where Twitter is as big of a deal, but I do definitely think it played a role in triggering some of this with the negative sentiment, and that didn't help. Now, what are your views on it long term? Do you think Twitter long term is actually going to help the stock like Elon says it is?
I do not. No. So, the question was, did Elon's Twitter escapade, what's the right word, right?
His acquisition. Let's go to acquisition of it.
It's not just the acquisition, right? It's not just the acquisition. So obviously that's part of it, his amount of money that he bought, right? And the fear that he's going to have to sell more stock. But, did his which he's continued to do.
His actions on the playground.
Yeah. Does that impact the question, right? Does it impact people's buying or selling Tesla stock, or buying or selling Tesla products? And, I've got anecdotal evidence of my own family members who love the Tesla's cars because they own it. And, one of them said, I'm dropping my Model Y reservation because it's my form of protest. Okay. That's just one anecdotal thing, right? And we know that there are moral compasses that once people pass that, if Elon started to support, some far right crazy conspiracy theories, there's going to be a huge portion of people that says, you know what, I don't care if this is going to be, going to make me bank or whatever. I'm going to pull out my money because I can't do it. It's not part of my moral compass. I think that impacted it in the short term. I don't think this is going to be long-term, because we all know that he's going to put a CEO into Twitter. He's already announced that Twitter is going to be cash flow neutral for next year. He's pretty confident that will happen. And so this will just die down. And it's going to, one of two things are going to happen. He's either going to change his behavior, like he had a little poll today. Should I stop being political, or should I keep shooting myself in the foot? And reality is that he probably won't. He won't stop. He will never stop. But the good news about that is that people are just going to get like, okay, that's part and parcel of who he is. He's going to say controversial things every week, every month, and they'll just go away. Exactly. So I don't think this is going to impact Tesla stock or sales long term.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what it comes down to. And whether Twitter in the long run actually helps Tesla or not, I don't think it's going to hurt it long term either way. So I think we'll be fine there. And yeah, like I was surprised, I love when he runs the polls, because you can see like what is the true sentiment out there. I have my dad who watches, mainstream media all the time. That's all he pays attention to. He's not on Twitter. He'll watch my videos. That's it. So he doesn't see what a lot of us see. He just sees what mainstream media sees. Yeah. So a great experiment to see from that was the fact that the information that he's texting over to me is like 2 days old from what we have. Yeah. So I'm like, this really shows a direct relation of how long it takes mainstream media to get a lot of the information that we see. And so he and I have these conversations all the time, and it's good for me because now I understand why we get a lot of the sentiment out in the market that we do, because it's coming from mainstream media, and that's all these people follow. So it's nice to see that, it's not as many people who feel certain ways as we think. It's definitely, when you take different groups of people, you can see that, all right, there's not as many who feel that way here, but if you go into this specific area, yes, a lot of people feel that way. So it's good to see the different things. So now going into 2023, you guys discussed on your live stream what we see coming up in 2023. So what do you think are the positives that we can see in 2023?
Okay, so it's a very complicated question, right? There's so many things that you have to wonder. Are we talking a stock? Are you talking about fundamentals?
Let's start with fundamentals because
Yeah.
I think the stock price is going to be rough all year. So let's go with fundamentals because eventually those fundamentals are really what's going to make the difference in the company. As you are
Okay.
as a long-term investor, no, that's really what's going to play out the most.
Okay. So, right. So the key thing here is the question of demand, right? Is there going to be a demand reduction in 2023 that's going to be affected by the macro? If there's is it a given that there's going to be a massive macro recession or not? So you should be prepared that there is, but I'm an optimist. I think that the things could turn around just as quickly as it fell. But let's assume that there is a recession, a pretty significant recession over the next year. That means, people losing jobs, right? So if you look at demand, what's going to happen with demand? We're going to see. So first of all, the common people or a common trope that people are saying, even Elon has said that, well, if interest rates are raised, the auto financing rates are raised, people are going to stop buying cars. Well, my friend Jeff Lutz, who I have on my show quite often, actually looked it up and showed a chart that showed that all the years in the last decade, 2 decades, of what happened to federal interest rates, auto interest rates, and US new car demand. Okay. And what they showed was there's actually no correlation between federal interest rates and auto interest rates. But more importantly, there's no correlation between auto interest rates and demand. So you can
Interesting.
have auto interest rates go up, but it doesn't necessarily, one-to-one show that the demand falls. So that's a fallacy. But what is not a fallacy is that if there's a major recession, people lose jobs. People lose jobs. They're not going to buy, high asset products like a car. So that part is true. So what we will see, if you look at the numbers, is that U.S. new car sales is hovering around 15, 16, 17 million U.S. cars per year on a good year. But during recessions, it could fall down from 14, 12, or 10, right? Depending on what year you think the recession hit hardest and so forth. So there's a 40% reduction in new car sales during a recession. However, again, if you look at it closely, the last recession that happened in 2008, the vast majority of the new car sales that was stopped buying are gas guzzlers. And in fact, that's what led the hybrids to then take off. So you then have to say, okay, if we see a reduction in demand, is it going to impact Tesla and electric vehicles in particular? And it's going to be less, right? I think people are going to probably, those who need to buy, they're more likely to buy the EV than the gas guzzler during a recession. And then you layer on top of that, well, what is Tesla's recourse? What can they do if there is a softening demand? And there's so many things they can do, right? So number one, we haven't talked about them. Everybody keeps talking about price cuts. Oh, they're going to lower price cuts. Yeah, they can lower price cuts. Each of these cars have risen by 15 to 30% higher in prices in the last year because of the ability to have this demand was so high.
Oh,
and
yeah.
demand's low, and they can just go back to what they initially had the price at, right? But what people aren't talking enough about is that they can create new variants, right? They can create different versions of Model 3, different versions of Model Y, cut out certain features and products and features of it to reduce its cost and lower its price and be able to then offer that, right? They can introduce the market to multiple, markets in the world. They don't just have to stay to the ones that they have. So if there is a massive softening demand in the U.S. or China, they can sell to other countries as well. There's the FSD potential, soften that margin. So the cost of goods is going down as well. So we've already, Elon has said that he's starting to see the supply costs going down. So, to what extent is margin going to be impacted versus demand falling? And can you kind of counter that? So I think at the end of the day, I did a poll. I asked people, we sent out a poll and said, okay, what is your prediction for how many sales deliveries, Tesla deliveries will there be in 2023? Okay. And 48% of people said that it's going to be 1.8 to 2 million. And then the other 50 is split between some are higher and some are lower than that. I kind of am at the 1.6.
Okay.
Million.
All right. So you went on the conservative side. Yep.
Conservative. I think that if in Q4 this year we had 405,000 deliveries, So what's going to happen next year? So I'm thinking, okay, well, I think we can keep it at 400,000 times 4, 1.6 million next year. That's very conservative. I think that that's with a massive recession that happened. That again, all the things I said, right? There's potential things that impact it, but you can. But Elon has already said he's going to try to shoot. If he had his way, he's going to tell the board that his preference is to shoot for higher sales, lower margin.
Right.
So I think it's going to be higher than 1.6, but that would be the worst case scenario as far as I'm concerned. Because there's some people, when you talk to them, they're going to say they're going to lower the price, they're going to lower the margin, they're going to lower the sale, they're not going to have as much sales. In fact, they're going to stop production. And I'm like, no, that's not Tesla. They're not going to stop production. They're going to continue to produce as much as they can, and they're going to take, you said it in one of your videos, you're going to take over. It's going to set them up for success even more so following years. Take over market share, right?
Yeah, and I know, like going back to the interest rates, for me, I did it for a lot of different reasons, but my why was ready back in March. Interest rates were 3.99%. Now in December, they were 5.99%. So looking at it as like, I wasn't going to take it anyway because I saw this year as an opportunity to invest in the stock in the company rather than the car. I don't need a car. So for me, it made more sense to do that. But then looking at the interest rates, I'm like, I'll be paying even more money on top of that because the interest rates are higher. So I made that decision for myself, but I'm only a sample size of one. So, looking at the data that you had,
that's the point when the price is high. When they lower the price of the car,
right? And it's just the same as with the
spread
housing
over
market.
5 years.
Yeah, housing market's going to be the same thing. So housing market, that's going to end up coming down with prices. So, and then you can just lower your interest rate later, or pay more money on the vehicle, and and I thought the same thing. And then looking at the deliveries for the year, I'm like, I thought the same thing. I go, they're going to keep on producing. And I remember Omar had put out a tweet saying that you want to get as many vehicles out there. It's like getting phones into people's hands, because if they have that device, that is a better chance that they're going to get into the ecosystem. It's a better chance they're going to buy the software for that ecosystem. So if you can just get the vehicles in people's hands, knowing that you have very high margin items coming later that they can tack onto it, you take the hit for a year because you're building for the future. And that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, and that to me is another reason why this year is going to be so prime as a buying opportunity, because this year may be crap. It might be a junk year for the company. It might have, lower margins. We may not see the growth that we've been seeing, but that is building up the foundation for what we could see down the road. So how far away do you think we are from FSD being solved? I know we're still waiting on version 11 to come out.
So the question of, being solved, that's a weird term, right?
And, that is true. We have to come up with a better way to explain that. When do you think we're going to have level? So, man, I guess the two different questions are, when do you think we're going to have full autonomy so that we can have an actual discussion about regulation?
Yeah. Okay. Again, very nuanced answer to all this, right? Yes. So first of all, Chuck Cook always admonishes me when I say solved. It's never going to be solved. There's always going to be a march of nines. It's going to take decades. Correct. So then the next question is, what is the spectrum of how do you think this is going to roll out, right? And so for me, I don't need to see FSD, full self-driving autonomy, which means that I can hail a robo-taxi driving from any point A to any point B, and that's when value is going to be unlocked. So the first thing would be just an advanced driver assistance safety program, right? So this occupancy network, people aren't talking about it enough. This thing is a game changer, right? When they are able to show people that a Tesla car that you buy will never basically be collision avoidance, right? The ability to escape any potential collision, not hit a basketball pole, not hit any humans, having this force field around the car, that's huge, right? That's a game changer for a car. And I think that's enough. That's enough to increase the value of this product, to make it take over the market and so forth. Then the next step is, when can they roll out a version where you would be able to, say that the geofence location, or basically from this point A to this point B, we'll take on the liability. Tesla will say, I take on liability, and you can basically go to sleep or something like that. And so I think that's how it's going to roll out. It's going to be like small geofenced areas or very specific areas. Now, if they don't want to do that because they don't need to, they can delay until they decide to roll it out. Then at that point, you can. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I told you earlier that I'm in the software industry. I'm a startup person. I know how exponential curves work, right?
Yeah.
So while we look back, and it's only been 2 years, actually, if you think about it, when
Yeah.
FSD beta came out, it's shocking the progress we've made. And yet there are people who are like, it's taking forever. It's going to take another 10 years. And I know that it's not. It's going to be a lot shorter than you think it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
explain to
So
people like all the time, especially like in the market we're in with what's going on. I'm like, look, being a personal trainer, you go hold a plank for a minute. That minute seems like a month. And this is the kind of where we're at right now is like the
yeah.
pain right now just feels like it's taking forever to get through. But when it's over, you're going to look back and realize, oh, that
Yeah.
actually didn't take as long as we thought. It's
So
actually faster.
the way I look at it is this way, right? So you see what the car is capable to do now, and it's already mind blowing what full self-driving can do. And then when you hear about these edge cases, like the one that they showed at the AI Day, where they said, okay, here's a car that's in an intersection, but it's actually parked, but people don't know if it's a cross section or not. Well, they fed that information and data and lots of videos to the neural nets, and it finally learned to identify whether or not a car parked in a certain way is parked, or if it's about to do cross traffic or not. And so, if it could solve that problem, there's nothing it can't solve. And so now it's just a matter of, and then it's going to be exponential. It'll be one of those things where, okay, it's going to take you 6 months, a year to solve one of these things. And eventually it's just going to be like within a month, everything's solved. That's how it's going to happen. So anyways, I am not putting in, I think that it's going to take several years before robotaxi in any form can happen. But here's the thing that I, as an investor, think about is that I don't think you necessarily have to see it in active. You just need to be able to know that it's about to come. Like it's like if once people start seeing more non-disengagement drives and people realize it's coming, that's enough for people to start to you want to get ahead of the game, right? And that's when you start to realize that this thing is gonna come. It's happening, which we all know it is already.
Yeah. And so when do you think they're going to go to all subscription based? That's one of the things. And going back to another thing you had mentioned before about vehicle pricing, we know years back in Canada, when they had their silly regulations there, Tesla was able to, cut it down to like a 93-mile range vehicle, bring it down the price, and then just had a software unlock. Something popped into my head when I was talking to Brian last week is Tesla can realistically do that, hey, here is your vehicle. It's going to be the best hardware that we can supply, but you're only going to get it as a standard range. For an extra $10,000, you can unlock it as a long range. And
we'll do it later.
Yeah. And then guess what? If you want for a day to show off to your girlfriends that you have a performance Model Y, pay us $50 and you can go ahead and get yourself a performance for the day. And then tomorrow it'll be off. And I have a feeling, that's a great way. I don't know if they're actually going to do it that way, but just to be able to, I don't want to say cheat the system, but just the versatility, you can't do that with other cars. And I think that's something that they might be able to do with versatility and, going to a subscription-based model for FSD only, we know that they're going to go to eventually. So, I think we have a lot of things.
I've been saying this for quite a long time as well, that it's very obvious that they want to go to a subscription model for FSD and everything in general. And so the reason why they keep raising the price for the FSD, because it's value, right? So they're going, oh, it's 8,000. Now it's 15,000. Now it's going to be 25,000. Now he's going to keep raising it up. He doesn't expect anybody to buy FSD as we are now.
Yeah.
But that value of what FSD is worth is what's going to be sold to fleet managers who want it. But then everybody will then switch to the subscription model, which is all what they want anyways. And so you're going to have an app, you're going to buy the Tesla. They're going to do leasing. You're going to be able to lease the car with insurance, with the entertainment package, with the internet access, with supercharger, all that stuff, all in a monthly fee.
Oh yeah.
And so again, it's just going to be a game-changing change in terms of how you buy cars and how you use cars. And this is another way that you're going to be able to they might accelerate that to kind of get through a recession, right? And say, instead of paying me $55,000 today, just, a recession or not, start paying me whatever, right? That's $600-800 a month.
Oh yeah. Do you think Tesla's going to get into financing themselves?
Yeah, this was brought up by Alexandra in one of my Cyber Bowl sessions 2 days ago. And she really did a long kind of a speech about how she does believe that Tesla should do this. There's a lot of people in the Tesla community who don't think that Tesla should do this, taking on debt in their kind of books. But I think it makes sense. I mean, again, it just makes sense that, think about what Apple did, right? They eventually start to sell you the phones on a monthly basis as well. I think that this is what's going to happen. Hardware is going to be turned into a subscription. This is going to be a SaaS company. And you can see all the signs, right? The apps are being created in such a way that it can do this. It's just
yeah. I'm actually I'm having Alexandra on next week as well, and that's one of the things we're gonna talk about. And this is something I had thought about last year. Was just that was what if we end up going the route of the smartphone? And not to say that they're going to just give the car away for free, but most of the value that they're going to have is from the software, is from everything you can add on to it. So they can sell these vehicles at cost because they're going to make all of that money back in the software and the additional stuff. And it just makes a lot of sense to do it that way. And maybe this year is a test year for that because they may not have a choice because they've got to cut margins to get vehicles out there.
Yeah, it's all going to work out best. At the end of the day, it's going to be better for Tesla that this all happened than not.
Oh, yeah. So now you've got a list here. You've got your lists. Let me pop it up on the screen here if you want me to.
Sure.
So
let's do that.
So these are Herbert's milestones. So I don't know if you guys who are over on Twitter have seen these, but he breaks it all down. So you can go ahead and explain what this is all about for us.
Sure. So as I told you, like I'm a startup founder, I'm a product manager. So one of the things I like to do is keep track of the key milestones that has happened for any company or any product. And so, this is kind of the first table that I created a long time ago, which is, just trying to track all the milestones that Tesla's ever done since 2003 to 2021. And it's just pretty cool, right? To be able to just see how this company has progressed and what dates, right? So I think many of us think that Tesla is a generational company, right? And I think that this is a moment in time we're witnessing. We happen to be here and watching this company that's going to be the most consequential company in the world to actually, to watch it in its birth. And that's why I started becoming a YouTuber. That's why I started being part of Twitter. That's why I started tracking these things, because I just feel like, I want to track and measure history as it's happening. So this is just a basic chart that explains what's happening. Then let's see, where are we now here? So then last year I started this kind of a table, a chart of 2022, all the different things that Tesla is going to hit and it's going to happen this year. It's all very exciting, right? So I think everybody is aware of what they actually were saying that they were going to do last year. Remember, memory lane, January 1st, we were so happy. Tesla stock was at almost all-time high.
Yes.
we were shocked at the 308,000 vehicles delivered. It was blowing away what everybody thought. Tesla insurance was rolled out to 5 states, and they were going to just spread that out all over the place. The superchargers were opened up to all electric vehicles, 2 countries at that point. Now it's like pretty well everywhere. Giga Berlin, Giga Texas, was launched. The mega battery plant in California, this is the Lathrop plant. People were like, they didn't even announce. I had known that in September.
That flew under the radar.
It was under the radar. September last year, they kind of said, we broke ground. And then I was like going, okay, when is the date that it's going to actually be open and be operational? And then Omar said, it already is. I said, what? He goes, yeah, go take a look at the Q1 earnings report, and it's embedded in there as a line item. I was like, what? So I didn't even realize nobody said that Megapack Factory was actually launched on April. So Giga Shanghai additional factory. We had their big giant annual shareholder meeting. That was a blast. Giga Texas launch was the big Giga rodeo party that we all had. The IRA finally happened. The IRA was announced that it was going to happen. We had our stock split. We had the Tesla bot demo, investment grade credit rating, all that. Okay, so all of this we all know happened, and it's wonderful. And people are kind of like very excited the first half of the year, and then they started getting upset. They're going, why are you showing catalysts? And I said, well, first of all, these are milestones, and not all milestones are catalysts. And then Earl, Frunk Puppy, was, how he is. He likes to make fun. He posted this version of this milestone, and he overlaid on top of it the stock chart for Tesla, and it's all red falling down. And the point being, this is all bullshit. None of this matters. Well, then what I then did was I said, okay, let me go and show you the stock chart overlaid of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So milestones do matter. And yes, the stock fell all of 2022, but don't be confused. Don't think that just because the stock fell when these catalysts, some of them are catalysts, but the progress of the company is continuing. Big things are happening for this company. And just because the stock doesn't follow this year, it will catch up the following years, especially if you look at the earnings report. If you look at what impacts the stock the most, it's going to be earnings. And they're hitting out of the park. They're hitting miles, everything that there's a blip in 2023 we're expecting, but it's what's going to eventually, you cannot, how do you evaluate a company is based on future cash flows and earnings is it. And so, yes, there's going to be a hit maybe in 2023. That might happen. But at the end of the day, it's all still very much in play. So I think this is critical that, yes, you're right. Stock didn't fall while all these wonderful things happen. And one of the things that I learned this year, Christian taught me this, which is during a macro environment of a recession, it doesn't matter if you are a company that has good news. Catalysts at that point don't do anything to a stock if there's a macro environment. Yeah. So unfortunately, all these wonderful things that happened last year did not make the stock move at all, but it will later because it shows up eventually in sales and in earnings and in competitive moats and so forth. So then the final one that I'm about to release, I haven't shown this yet because I'm still working on it, is what do we expect for 2023? What are the things that we're going to see here? And, we had the EV credit that went into effect on January 1st, but of course there's a hoo-ha about that because it's got to be clarified what it is actually, how's that going to impact Tesla or not. We had our Q4 production deliveries, so we all know what happened there. The deliveries are still record numbers. By the way, this is a huge milestone. It's the first quarter that Tesla ever had 400,000 units delivered.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't celebrate it.
I know. And I tell that to people all the time. It's like people need instant gratification. And of course, we have been accustomed to every time Tesla comes out with a great milestone or some sort of catalyst, the stock takes off. We've, especially to newer investors, that's what we've been groomed to expect. So to have the opposite happen is very disheartening for a lot of investors because we're like, why is it not going up? You have to remember, it'll go up eventually. We're just not in an environment that's going to allow it.
This is great. Tesla lithium refinery breaks ground. Something I've been saying to folks as well is that 2 years ago, did you predict that Tesla was going to announce Tesla Bot and that they were getting into a refinery? No. So it's about the company being able to do these innovations and be able to launch new companies, new products, and they're going to keep doing it. So 2 years from now, we're going to be talking about
anyone else.
And better and take over markets and win. And so this is not a car company, but then the revenue is all cars, absolutely true. But there will be revenue from mega packs. There's going to be revenue from bots eventually, right? FSD. And then there's going to be 2 new products or 3 we haven't even talked about yet, right? So, it's going to happen. So at some point, so here's the interesting thing. I think you wanted to talk about Investor Relation Day, which is March 1st. If you look at Investor Relation Day, March 1st, right, they talk about several things. One is not only are they going to show you the production line, which is interesting. I don't know, nobody's really excited about that, but long-term expansion plans. So this could be when they do the master plan part 3, they're going to announce multiple gigafactories. They're probably going to announce a new mega pack factory. It's almost a given. And this is the other thing we should talk about, right? I think people are talking about this, which is the right thing. Let's say that there is a massive recession. Let's say that there is a massive reduction in car sales. Let's say that Tesla does cut back on the batteries for the cars because there's such a drop in demand for cars. Well, good for them. They'd probably be happy. What will they do? They'll redirect all of that into the mega packs. Yeah. The mega packs is unlimited. What did Elon say, right? Infinity. The market is basically infinity.
Oh, yeah. And they've got, for demand in mega packs, I think are pushed through 2024 right now.
Right. There's like a waiting list for a year, 2 years or whatever, a year and a half, 2 years. And so they'll just go and do that and have all the utilities around the world, go buy it sooner. Gen 3 platform.
It's almost like the opposite that we had 2 years ago when they focused all of their resources on the vehicle sector. Now they can focus it all on the energy.
Yeah. And then people are going to complain, and yeah, but right, why did Semi not come? Why did Cybertruck not come? And well, because 3 and Y were so successful. And so
Yeah.
next year, well, if 3 and Y are not being successful anymore, let's go ahead and spend all of our time on mega packs.
Yeah.
And then
What's
that's,
working
well,
for you? Focus on that.
yeah. And so again, it's one of those weird things, right? So next year, the valuation of the company could take a hit because, hey, you are just a car company. Your demand is falling, your margin's falling. But isn't that funny that because there's a massive recession, what could actually happen is Tesla is forced to then accelerate mega packs to the point that perhaps it's going to be to the point now in a couple of years that it's going to be even higher. You know what I mean? That is, then it's going to be forced you to no longer think of Tesla as a car company. They're going to be a car and energy company, and it's get the best thing in all worlds. Let's suffer for a year for a greater, faster acceleration of incredible PEs the following year.
Right. And we have to remember that was Tesla's mission anyway, was to accelerate to renewable energy, not accelerate to EVs. So this is really just kind of forcing that hand to go even faster. I mean, I made that video the other day of, 2023 could be the year that Tesla proves that they're not just a car company. And we've got Mark here asking, is it just a car company? That is what everyone is thinking now. Even a bull like me turned to a bear. Like you said, right now, yes, the majority of the revenues and profits are coming from cars. They're coming from from vehicles.
Yeah, this is the thing that's pissing me off right now. If I can get a little
Go ahead, have at it.
Okay, have at it. So what I'm upset about are people who are bulls who then say, my sentiment has changed, and therefore, and I think that the fundamentals for Tesla has changed. And now I believe that it's being properly, not only is it being properly marked, the market value for the valuation of Tesla is properly done at this point with the stock being at 100. But I believe it's going to fall more because don't you think that Tesla is just a car company? And take a look at the multiples for Ford and Tesla or Toyota. Well, what pisses me off about that is that you are using the stock price is the lower stock price, therefore your sentiment and your fundamentals have changed. Now, if you could tell me that if the stock price is at $400, let's say the stock price is $400 today, and yet the macro is exactly the same. Okay, look, I'll give it to you. Let's say 400 fell to 300 because of the macro. Okay, you saw some impact already. Are you at that point still going to tell me that the actual valuation of the PE ratio should be a car company? I don't think so.
No, because we were there when we were at 313, bouncing off of those levels and coming down. I was tracking the gaps and all the levels all the way down. We hit them all, and all the way down, everybody's like, "Oh, PE is falling. PE is falling. Why is it falling? It shouldn't be falling." And now that we're here, all of a sudden, everybody's like, "It should be falling." Like why?
Right,
like,
right. So,
why did
as an investor, stay strong in terms of your conviction and remind yourself of your theories and your data and information. And so, is it a car company? Okay. What is the proper PE ratio? So it should all be about cash flow and expectations of future cash flows. It's all about margins and all that. And so that's where the debate is, right? But if it is, it's going to be a 1 year hit, maybe a year and a half hit to the whole scenario. So that's what, that's a thing that really just pisses me off a little bit, is that you think that we are a Toyota or Ford at this point when everything we've just been talking about. So
yeah, and I think about, and somebody here, where was it? Oh man, there was a good comment about this. Oh dang it, where are you? You guys are commenting so fast. Oh, here we go. Tesla is an energy company. They happen to put cars around the energy. And you think about it, we can be looking 5 years down the road where Tesla is this monster energy company and the cars are just an accessory to their energy company. I mean, it could potentially, and I think it will end up getting to that point. But if you're going to be so nearsighted thinking that we are never going to get to that point, you may be holding yourself back as an investor.
Well, that's the question. So what will it take for the valuation for the valuation of Tesla to be seen as more than just a car company? What will it take? And it will need to have megapack revenues to at least be what, 10%? You're going to need to see sizable revenue from these other lines. The problem is Tesla's EV is skyrocketing so fast. And
You
I
gotta
expect
catch
it to keep
up.
skyrocketing so fast. So damn you, because if you just slow down that EV growth, then the PE ratio will go higher.
Yeah. Hey, and we might
So
get that this year.
so that's why, like you said, this is a great opportunity. But unfortunately, what happened was last year, all of us Tesla bulls, we went all in. We all got excited. We got thrown in, and we thought that it was undervalued at that point at 300, right? And so now, when it's at 100, now people are throwing up and saying, yeah, that's probably correct. And that's what bothers me. It's like you're being influenced by
Yeah.
the stock price. And as a good investor, you should stay strong. I'll give you an example. I know this is a little bit off, and I'll try to do it quickly. But
Yeah.
I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, and I grew up in a pretty wealthy neighborhood called West Vancouver, Birch Properties. It's the most expensive property in like all of Vancouver. We moved away kind of thing. And then as I got married and we're moving back to Vancouver, Canada, we're going to buy a house now. It just so happens that for some reason, this West Vancouver area was the lowest price compared to all the other neighborhoods. In fact, this other neighborhood that was close to West Van was now higher. And so that's what the market was valuing these properties at. So my wife and I just scratched our head going, what? This is not right, because this West Vancouver is on a mountain, got a great views. Why would people value this property lower than others? Now, if you are the kind of person who says, oh, they must be right, the market knows something, then you will flock with everybody. But no, we said, no, this is a great opportunity. There's something people aren't seeing. I still believe this is the case. So we did well because we stuck to that guts. You don't make investments based on what the market says. The market might tell you something, but it's usually a short-term thing, or just, oh, they may be wrong. So I don't know. That's
well, I mean,
right?
I look at Warren Buffett alone. These are the times he loves. You don't hear him complaining at all right now. He's excited because all of the money that he's been saving, he can now spend and
yeah.
get
So
all
the
of
rich
these stocks for
people,
super low prices.
are not affected by recessions. They've got cash flow. They're not going to have an issue about feeding themselves next month. They're not worried about losing their job and all that. So that I get. Like if you're rich, this is a great time. But if you did not invest in Tesla and you have cash, this is great. I do feel for those people who are struggling right now, who got caught with the margin. There was a lot of people who lost money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who got afraid and started selling stock. And so, yes, I feel it. I feel for them, and they don't have a recourse to bounce back. And so they do hate it when people say, this is a great time to buy. When they were hearing that 5 months ago, they already don't have cash. And then so right now, you do need to prepare if you are potentially going to lose a job. You need to have cash flow. I love a statement you made, right? We talked about it a little earlier. One of your videos, you said that be like Tesla.
Yeah.
What did Tesla do last year? They have their cash. They're well positioned with cash. They reduced all their debt. They're making sure they have huge cash flows, right?
Yeah. They're perfectly primed to handle a recession.
And they prepared for that when there wasn't yet a recession, but they kind of thought, well, what if it happened?
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to do as well before you buy stock. But having said that, this is a generational company. You should try to put in money here if you can. Not financial advice, because every person is in a different scenario. I don't know where you're at. You can't just take somebody's comments and do it. But
yeah. All right. So going back to Generation 3, the Generation 3 platform. So what do we think that's going to be?
Yeah. So, okay. So this is, I'm very, very, very excited about this, of course. And so, so Generation 3 platform, what we heard him say was that there's going to be half the price, half the cost to produce, and half the factory dimensions to create. And it's going to be double the volume sales. So it sounds like it's going to be
the volume of all the other vehicles combined.
Right. So it's going to be half the price. It's going to be a lower cost. Nobody knows if he's referring to robotaxi or if he's talking about a compact car. And, we used to call that the $25,000 or $35,000 car, right? The low cost car.
Yeah.
And nobody knows but it's a platform. He also said that it's not just going to be a small car. It could be used. It's going to be modular. It could be used for the van or other form factors.
Yeah.
So,
And that was one of the things that we were talking about last week. And Brian had mentioned that it may be a compact, that every different factory is going to have its own iteration. Like you can have a hatchback in Berlin, you can have like a Nissan Sentra type style
Interesting.
over in China. And I was like, and is it going to be the same for the robotaxi? Because thinking about the robotaxi, looked
I
like it
think so.
might
Yeah.
be a bigger vehicle, but
Yeah.
maybe the same platform for the robotaxi will also be the cyber van.
Yeah. So
So
I have some theories on this, and this is
yeah,
just theories with no facts at all. But when I was at the cyber rodeo party, I found myself lucky enough to be able to have go into this private party where Elon was, and I got to speak to Elon, I got to speak to Kimball, and I had this
nice.
chance to speak to Franz. This was in April of this year, and with Franz, I asked him the question: do you consider the Cybertruck your greatest creation? And he said, no, it's actually the one I'm working on now.
Oh,
And and
nice.
then of course we heard Franz say that again just a month ago at an
Yeah.
interview.
Well, and I
And
remember because even in that interview, like he didn't even say it wasn't the Cybertruck. He just said it's the one we're working on, which some people
he
thought
told
is
me
it
it's
the
not the
Cybertruck?
Cybertruck. It's not the
Okay.
Cybertruck. It is the one I'm working on now. And that was when they were talking about creating the robo taxi. And so in my mind, I guess I'm guessing in all this thing. Okay, they're launching the Cybertruck. I believe the Cybertruck, the third gen platform, is going to be based on the Cybertruck platform, not the 3 and Y platform. I could be way off of here,
So
but
I
the
was thinking the
reason
same
I'm
thing because footprint wise, I thought it could like the Cybertruck, Cybervan, Robotaxi could be all the same platform.
yeah. Yep. And
And
now the question is it stainless steel or is it going to be a single stamp? We know that in order to get half the price, it's got to have, not only the front and rear casting, it's got to be like the whole thing. Boom.
oh yeah.
And in order to reduce price, no painting, no paints as well. But I don't know. People are telling me they don't do casting on stainless steel. They just do aluminum or others. So
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but I think it's got to be a single stamp.
Well, and so now you
Concept.
said back in April, I'm just trying to put some pieces of the puzzle together because I love doing this. Elon also, right around that time, tweeted out, how would you feel about a highly customizable van,
Yeah,
a highly
modular. Yeah,
configurable van? So I
yeah,
wonder, and Franz
yeah,
being the designer,
yeah,
thinking that to him would be just a world of experience to be able to design so much stuff within this. So
yeah.
maybe that's what this is all. Ooh, yeah, I'm getting really
Yeah, and
excited
I think
now.
it's going to be modular so that you can expand. You can
Yeah,
expand the size. But if they use the Cybertruck kind of form factor, right, like sharp lines and all that, and then you can do something like this easier. And then the other controversial thing I was talking about, but I kind of pulling back off now, is that I was saying that maybe it won't even have any windows. Boom. And then
wow.
you basically just have screens inside, and then you're looking outside through the screens. But yeah, that's probably dumb. But I'm just trying to think about, what if you were going to design a robo taxi from first principles, right? How would you do it? You'd probably have the seating all in the center, looking out to the, that you're all back to back to each other, right? And you can
Yeah,
swivel to talk to each other, but mostly you're going to be looking at your own screens, just like you would in a van or bus.
yeah.
And what are you going to look at? You're going to look at a screen, wouldn't you? And then you can drive in any direction. I don't know. And then the doors have to be, is it a sliding doors? I don't think they're going to do the Falcon doors. That was too much.
Yeah,
But it's
I
going to
think
be sliding
sliding doors
doors.
would make the most sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically you take a Cybertruck, you change a little bit of its, sort of height, and then, who knows?
Oh,
We're
I know.
having
And
fun.
then think about the roof, like especially if you're going to make a van on the roof, you can have it be all glass, but have it be solar panels. So that this way, if you're
That,
driving a robotaxi around town, it's just in the cities, it's already charging itself. So you don't even have to worry about charging it anywhere near as often.
yeah. Oh, anyway, so if you do this, would you then use the same platform for a boat? And the Cybertruck is already rumored, and he's already said he should be able to float.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's all kind of fun and all that. But what would be interesting would be if they announced or kind of revealed a low cost car next year. That could be a catalyst that changes
Right.
the narrative of the future for Tesla. And of course, Cybertruck is going to be a big one as well.
Yeah.
And Cybertruck, people are calling it recession buster, recession proof, that no matter what kind of recession there is, there's going to be still enough sales for this to kind of, not be impacted. The enough buyers who are not worried about, the cost would be able to afford the Cybertruck, and that would be another group. I don't think it's going to be enough number wise, but it could be something that adds on.
What iteration of the Cybertruck do you think they're going to start with deliveries on this year? Do you think it's going to be the dual motor or the quad motor?
Yeah, I have no idea. Obviously, people think it's quad motor. Always start with a high premium, but if it's a recession year, I was just playing around with the idea that what if they had a low cost Cybertruck?
I was thinking
You
if they
know,
came in with one at 75,000, you keep it under that tax credit, people can then take advantage
yes,
of that as well.
yeah, that's the thing. But are they going to have issue with demand for that, or is it going to be yet another scenario where the demand is so high for it that despite a massive recession, the demand is so high that you're still going to have huge demand, and it's going to be all over again, right? The Model 3, Model Y, where there's a huge waiting list and all that,
Yeah.
and so
I
they
almost
will start
I
with a high
wonder if they're
cost.
gonna open up the ordering page and just wait to see how many come in and then make the decision at that point. Because
Yeah,
if they have enough orders coming in and people are, 200,000 people are willing to pay for the quad motor,
yeah.
why not? Why not throw larger
Yeah.
margin items out there?
Okay, well, you can take this off now, but the other big
Yeah.
thing would be the Lathrop Megapack Ranch, and then the new Megapack factory. I think we talked about that. I think those things could be fairly exciting. I don't know what the Model 3 Highland is. Haven't heard much about it yet, but I'm
So I
assuming
was
that will
wondering
reveal next year.
Yeah, I was wondering if Highland was going to be the structural battery pack setup for the 3 and the Y to be able to
Right,
cut costs. That was
cut costs.
my
Yeah,
assumption.
they can have a
Um,
Model 3 variant that is cheaper than it is. And that's the other thing they can do is like, do they need to release a compact car before they can sell a lower price Model 3? Why can't you just take a variant of Model 3, like the Highland, and sell it for, $20,000 cheaper somehow if
yeah,
they
give
just
me give
cut
me
everything
a
out of it?
220-mile range, standard range Model 3. You sell the thing for $36,000, you know, that thing will sell like crazy, especially if you've
Take
got it.
advantage of, right, the existing gigafactories that's able to create these things, make a
Yeah.
slight variant of it, and that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. It's like, why, they could do those kind of things. So there's
Oh, yeah.
so much they can do.
Oh, I know. Now, when it comes to the Megapack factory, the location, do you think they're going to do it here in the US, or do you think it might be like Australia or Indonesia, somewhere in the Asia Pacific region?
I don't know as well, but somebody was telling me that it makes sense from now on that any gigafactory that they create will be built on top of a kind of like a place that can do the batteries and mine the elements, right? And
Right.
that's why we're talking about, Canada, Indonesia, and so forth. The mega pack factories, I don't know. I have no idea where the locations might be and how they choose those locations, whether or not that matters.
Yeah. One last question before we get off of here. We've got William asking, thank you. Please comment on 4680 production ramp. I know, and I'm sure you've seen stuff coming from Lee, Tesla economist, about his concerns about the 4680 ramp. How do you feel it is going? And do you think they're going to have enough 4680s this year to meet the demand that they've got?
Yeah. So I'm not an expert in this space at all. That's why I do interviews. I talk to the experts. I get them to give me their advice, and they do all the analysis and so forth. But I know that Tesla's executives have taken a hit in terms of their credibility. That has happened.
Yep.
And one of the things that I was banking on was, Kirkhorn, when he says that we're going to hit, just under 50% production or just under 50% delivery. And then one of the things they also said was that they feel very confident in 2023 that they're not going to be battery constrained for the first time in forever. So I
Yeah.
felt very good about that. Now you start seeing that many of the cars that Tesla's selling is using the 2170s. And so now there's this thinking that they're reserving the 4680s for the Cybertruck launch. So it's, you have people like Lee, who's very pessimistic about not only 4680, but he's very pessimistic that there's even enough 2170s that's going to be around available.
Yeah.
So that's oddly one thing I'm not worried about at all at this point. There's been no indication to me that that would be like, what's your reasoning why you're saying that? What is the hints that you're seeing? In fact, at this point, even if they can sell 2170s all day long, and that's why they're ramping up all of these these extra they've had long-term contracts with many battery manufacturers for a long time, and that's why he was able to say for 2023 I'm pretty confident we have what we need. So
Okay. That makes sense. So last thing, and we'll get off of here. Elon said that he feels that in 5 years, Tesla will be worth and more valuable than Apple and Saudi Aramco combined. Do you feel that that is true?
Yeah, I'm banking on it.
Nice. I like it.
What do I mean by that? I'm just like, this is exactly the reason why I started investing in Tesla in 2012. Because here's a question for you, okay? And this is kind of like a famous question that people ask startup founders and so forth, right? What matters more for an investment? Is it the market? Is it the team? Or is it the product?
I mean, wow, I would go with a product.
Yeah. So many people will say, if you have an amazing product that's better than anybody else, and it has 4+ value propositions greater than the status quo, you're going to be very successful, correct?
Yep.
Other people say, you know what? It's not the product. It's the team. If you have an amazing team with a person like an Elon who's leading this, it doesn't matter what product you're talking about. It doesn't matter what market you're talking about. You're going to be able to figure things out and you're going to create it, correct?
Yep.
What actually is the real answer to all of this is actually the market. So if the market is massive, if it's like something that is just a revolution in a space, it doesn't matter if you have a subpar product. It doesn't matter if you have a subpar team. The market is so big, the company will succeed.
That's a great point. I think about, just us as content creators on YouTube. There is such a large market for that. That's why there's so many of us out here, because, so many people want to see what's going on and they love the different perspectives that are out there.
Yeah. So EV, the revolution to EV, I think we all agreed has happened, is unstoppable. You have countries like Canada saying that by 2035, you cannot sell here anymore. They're putting down legislation, all that, right? So the market for electric vehicles is so big, and we're only at 2 to 3% of the global auto sales that are out there, that every EV company will do very well. Doesn't matter. And that's where the reminder to folks is that don't compare yourself to other electric vehicles. Compare yourself to the ICE vehicles and whether or not an EV is going to outsell an ICE. And it's happening. In fact, both things are happening. EV sales projection is faster than they forecasted. Yep. And ICE sales decline is faster than they forecasted. And so this is all happening sooner than later. So anyways, so I do believe that, with that scenario, the market availability, and then if you layer on top of that the margins for the mega pack, as you were saying earlier, the energy, if Elon thinks that it can happen, I think it's going to happen. I mean, it's the path is there, so the potential is there. I think that's all that matters. Is that is the potential there? And then okay, I'll make that bet. And then it's all probabilities. Can it happen? What year will it happen? But I'm pretty sure from everything I've seen, the Tesla team is so good that I think it's going to happen. So that's what I'm making a bet. It's a bet. It's a fun bet.
It is. Yes, absolutely. I like it. Well, Herbert, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for taking the time with us today. If you guys do not follow him, check him out, Brighter with Herbert. And then he is also at Herbert Ong over on Twitter. So check him out there. Is there anything else you want to share with us today?
Not me. No, I'm okay. I'm on YouTube every day. So
excellent. And if you guys don't, definitely check him out, and we will see you guys all later. Thank you.